So, it's upsetting to learn that someone has stolen our name and become the No Niche podcast. But,
This is a very tragic turn of event.
and we would like to apologize to our listeners if you have listened to that dreadful podcast and thought it was ours, but there's
They're
nothing we could do about it.
no way affiliated with us.
We have nothing to do with them, and we need you to know that because otherwise it'll look very bad for us when they go very racist, which we know what they're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, they could be really nice people, but I don't think they are.
I haven't watched any episodes, but I saw the thumbnail and I assume they're both racists.
Yeah, me too.
So,
I could be wrong,
I mean, we could be wrong. But I don't want to accuse anyone off the bat.
but they are
But they're-
probably homophobic.
I'd say like if 90% chance they're all sexist, homophobic, racists. Anyway, we have to address the allegations that we missed the last week of podcasting.
This
They
is-
are true. But were you gonna say something? Sorry, I can edit that out. You can edit that out.
Yeah, sorry. I forgot to do the intro.
Oh, of course, yes.
Welcome back to the No Niche Podcast.
The one, the only.
Your home for nothing in particular. My name's Gus, and I'm joined by.
Houston.
And so, we're very pleased that you decide to lend your ears to our sweet voices for any given time.
Oh yeah.
So settle down and listen to the No Niche Podcast.
Okay, now we have to put that at the very beginning of the episode.
Yeah, I'm sure it's fine.
Well, I said the one and the only, which would be very confusing if you had heard the part where I just said that we weren't the only one a second ago. So if we just leave it there, I mean, it's going to be very confusing for our poor listeners who have already gone through so much.
Semantics. But they're really smart people.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Or we have the smartest listeners. This is a known
Aside
fact.
from those comments, never mind.
We don't have to talk about the comments. Look, the people who comment on videos are usually the dumbest ones. So
Guys, I really appreciate your efforts to abide by Houston's request not to make weird comments about him.
yeah,
I don't know why I am not extended the same courtesy.
it's so we have focused the camera on me tonight. That is because Gus is eating, and he's become very self-conscious about the way he eats. And
After last week's.
yeah, so I am going to have to request, unfortunately, that you not make any weird comments on the way Gus eats either.
Okay, now I'm happy.
Okay, well, I'm not, but that's fine. Anyway, so
our topic for today.
well, hold on. Before we get into our topic, we have to address the allegations because we started to it, but then we had to introduce the podcast. So, yes, we did miss last week of podcasting. This is not an intentional decision on our part. Our classes were canceled due to reasons that we don't need to go into.
There was a sandstorm.
There could have been a sandstorm. That is what happened, actually. I agree with Gus on this one. But we do need to say we saw the comments on the last video, and the half of that weren't about Gus's bizarre eating habits, were about the fact that we weren't posting another video and they had to rewatch the last one, which was very confusing for them because I started by saying I don't think ghosts are real, and anyone who says they are stupid, and then I ended it by saying something like, I don't know, maybe they're real, which I'm sure was extremely confusing when you go back to the video. But basically, we have both written apologies. I have one right here. And we want to... He's got one right there.
Mine was written on a napkin.
He did his best. But basically, we just wanted to say we're very sorry. What was our Sorry, I missed what was the topic.
Oh. Today we're going to be talking about building a fantasy world.
A fantasy
and
world?
character development within your own universe.
No way.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Is that some kind of like a nerd thing?
Well, I see it as like a skill if you want to go into like, you know, whether you're playing games with your friends or making a TV show. Hopefully this gives you an introductory guide and inspires you to add a little bit of creativity to this world.
Wow, that's so true, man. Okay, so what do you want to? Did you? What was the like thing you wanted to do that about?
So, what we're gonna do in this episode is we're gonna demonstrate creation of a character backstory within a given world.
Okay. Now, for context, I've never played Dungeons and Dragons. I've played Baldur's Gate, but I just made a skeleton guy who shoots arrows, and I didn't think much about it.
But importantly, Houston does make things. I think that you can actually plug your channel.
I mean, I guess it's Houstonian the Great, spelled like Houston, like the city, and then onion, but you take off the last two letters of Houston, like the city, and then you put onion instead, and then the Great, no
Links
spaces.
will be down in the description, unless you're listening on Apple Music or Spotify podcasts, in which, thank you, make sure to leave a like and a vote, a good rating for
5
us.
stars, hopefully.
It really helps. We are approaching the Talk to a Podcast,
Yeah.
and really by the end of this year, our goal is to be more listens per week than the Talk to a Podcast.
Well, my goal personally is more listens per week than every other podcast combined, but I think that might be a bit far.
I am fine with Talk to a plus Ben Shapiro.
That is an acceptable metric in my book, but I still shoot for the moon, aim for what you can't achieve. But here's a little saying I've heard before: if you shoot for the moon and miss, then you're in the stars. So that's just a little bit of wisdom for you guys. We should probably read these apologies, right?
Yeah, let's get that out of the way. I mean, I'm really apologetic.
I am super apologetic. We both wrote these apologies, and I was planning to just not read it and just have that show how much sorry I am. But like, I guess it was kind of a big deal. So, okay. Anyway, here's my written apology for all of you. Gus, come on. That's unprofessional. Last week was an outlier. It was... Oh, I'm sorry. This just isn't working, I'm sorry. I need to say how personally sorry I am to all the listeners. This was seriously not anything we could have done anything about, but we should have at least let you know. We should have given you some kind of a warning, some kind of like a acknowledgement. We could have recorded on Zoom, but we decided not to because it was like it was it was complicated. But anyway, it's just we are truly sorry, and I need that to come across because it's just been a long week for all of us, I think, and I don't want to make light of the situation. So if you can find it in your hearts to forgive us, then that would be just the best thing that could happen for us. And I want to move forward. The first 2 episodes were a lot of fun, and this one's coming along great so far. And I just don't want you to think that we don't care for you or about you, because we do. We care so much. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't. It's Gus's turn.
I am sorry for the way that I have hurt you, have offended you. I know a lot of people were commenting that they are in fact ghosts and they felt seen by me, and I appreciate that. So, if you can find it in your heart to forgive me, I would greatly appreciate that.
Wow. My goodness. All right, I think that demonstrates how sorry we are. Anyway, so you were saying like characters like Dungeons and Dragons and the like
Yeah, just
that kind of thing.
Just a character with deep backstory for a given setting.
Okay. See, I've been invited to a couple Dungeons and Dragons campaigns, but I have a very busy schedule, so I've never actually made it to one. Okay, I guess you're very unprofessional once again. But I have my character all planned out, I just have to actually act on it.
Can I hear about the character?
Okay, so he's half orc, half elf, but he's extremely ashamed of his elf side. And that's kind of the entirety of my bit. And then he kind of just talks weird and silly, and then I don't know. That's the entirety. That's all I have. I just think it's funny to imagine that. That's my big thing. Gus is eating. I would turn the camera around, but I know how he feels about that.
You see, I think that that's actually a really good start for a character. That's typically how I start. I'm like, oh, you know, it'd be crazy and like funny and fun. And so, like, I'll tell you about my last character that I played. Her name was Helmir. She was a fox person. And basically her whole, like, backstory was that, like, she was raised by crows and ravens. That was, like, her, and that was the most intelligent life form that she met for, like, the first 20 years of her life. And so, speaks broken English, has no manners whatsoever, talks to trees, plants, and flowers, prefers them actually to people. And so that was kind of where I started. And she ended up being like this protector of the forest and all of that stuff. But I really just wanted to play a character that talked to trees. I like started with the idea I want a tree hugger. And then I got to the first campaign, and originally Helmir was Helmer, dude version of Helmir. And then the DM was like, we all have male characters. And I was like, Helmer is gender blind.
He has no idea.
There's no impact of gender on this character. So I was like, you want it to be a woman? I don't care.
Fair.
And so, yeah. Helmir was a lot of fun to play. Cast, like, different nature spells. Talk to the spirits of the trees. And, like, the way that her character arc started was, like, because she was hearing the voices of the trees around her, she thought she was schizophrenic. She just kept on hearing, like, these voices coming from behind her. And then, like, no one was there. Eventually she realized that it was, like, trees and plants that were talking. So that was a really fun aspect.
That kind of happened to me one time, but with rocks. But I'm all set now. I'm good now.
Sometimes those voices are fun, though.
Yeah, like, you know, you're alone in a forest. What are you going to do? Not talk to the rocks? Sounds boring. But that's cool.
People think that it's so normal to talk to their dog. I talked to my tree one time, and suddenly I'm the weirdo.
Yeah, it's kind of insane, just like the double standards people have. Like, you're talking to your pet snails, but me talking to a rock is weird. Like, they're literally the same thing if it's like curled up. Like, they're just both hard objects.
Exactly.
You're acting weird for no reason. Snails having no bones is kind of funny, given that they are inside of a rock. I guess it's not that funny. It makes a lot of sense now that I think about it. But turtles have bones. Turtles are just snails, but bigger. And dumb. And they make their own shell, which is crazy.
Turtles? You mean like how their shell is their skin?
Yeah. That's like, that shouldn't be.
The biology of turtles is pretty crazy.
Yeah. And then, like, over the hedge, he comes out of the shell, and it's, that's extremely disturbing, because that shouldn't be possible. Unless,
He's just a lizard.
Yeah, he's just been acting. He actually stole the turtle shell off of an actual turtle, and he's just been pretending this whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's lore. That's true.
We figured it out.
So, did you have more to talk about with the Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Take your elf orc character and be like, what is like? Think of like what your combat would be for that character.
Okay, I was thinking they would just have a giant club, but like be really good at arrows and bows and stuff, but just never want to use that because they're so ashamed of the fact that they can do that. So they just use like a giant log or something.
So they're incredibly dexterous, but just like try to hide it.
They hide it, yeah. So in like tough situations, in like quick combat or whatever, they can just completely destroy anyone, but they try not to. It's like those characters in movies who are like, "Oh, my powers, they make me a freak. I don't want to use my powers because they make me a freak, and I'm like a normal person or whatever." But then
Isn't that like
they
every
learn
anime
to,
ever?
yeah, it is. They learn to accept themselves, and then they become the most powerful person on the planet. It's like that, but like not most powerful, just like as about as powerful as an elf.
Slightly more powerful.
Maybe slightly more powerful, yeah. They're
So
learning to
do they-
accept that they are decent at stuff.
So if they hate the elf half, then they had to have been raised by like their orc parent, right?
Maybe there it was like a broken household. So like the elf and the orc were together, but the elf was like really abusive or something. So they're like really they'd hate elves in general. Maybe they're racist against elves. I think that's probably what it is. Why else would they be
So
ashamed?
is the orc the paternal or the maternal?
I mean, when I said abusive, I immediately assumed paternal. So I'm just that not sexist, I guess.
So the orc is the mom.
Yeah. So then, yeah, that's my idea basically. Maybe they have siblings.
Does the mom dislike the orc, the half orc, because of that half elf?
That wasn't my thought. I mean, I was thinking that the half elf or the orc would like have raised it basically as a mother, and then maybe like died somehow because the mother always has to die.
But the mother is accepting of the half elf. It's
Well,
just
she
your
married
half
the
elf that
elf.
doesn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, like kids cannot like their father, but the mom stays married to them. So it's like that's basically what it is. I there's a very specific archetype I'm trying to fit this into. And now that I'm trying to make it a thing. So that's basically like there's definitely movies like this. I just can't think of what they are. Any movie where the dad is always away and the mom's raising the kids in like the opening montage, and then the mom dies and the dad takes over and is the worst, and then the kid runs away from home or something.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah,
Common stereotype.
yeah.
So let me ask you this: if your character was like in, have you seen Game of Thrones?
No,
Have you seen The Witcher?
no.
Have you played The Witcher?
I played the first hour, but I kind of stopped because I don't like sword games and magic. So,
Perfect.
yeah, I'm not really cut out for this. That's kind of why I wanted to just use a club. Club is
Perfect.
easy. Whenever I play games like Dungeons and Dragons, I just use bows and arrows.
We're on the right track. You would have liked this one campaign I did where everyone had future weapons.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that's kind of fun. Future as in like now or like the future?
like laser guns and stuff.
Ooh, that's cool.
Like Star Wars.
Yeah. Star Wars is actually the past, so, that shows what you know.
But the plot of the campaign was like, oh wow, I can't believe you just Star Wars. Let's cancel Houston.
No, wait, hold on. That's not necessary. I just apologize to all of you. You can't cancel me now. It's a rule.
But so the plot, I was DM for this one, and the plot was basically like, we have
Colonizers?
Colonizers is the word. We have like future colonizers coming to like this planet of like people that have magic basically, but they don't have advanced technologies. And so it was like magic versus technology. It was a lot of fun.
It sounds cool.
But yeah, that was like my favorite. That was my second favorite campaign that I ever ran. My favorite one started with all of the players killing the like keeper of the underworld, and then the rest of the campaign was them trying to find and hire a replacement. So they went to like all of the old gods of in this mythos, like whatever the most prominent religion's figure was, had like current domain of the underworld, and they kind of like ran it their way. And so like after the religion kind of faded out, it like they basically retired
Right.
somewhere on Earth. And so like the campaign was like going around and like interviewing people, or like trying to track down where these old gods of death were.
It's pretty fun.
And I just like left it up to them. I was like, whoever you want, I mean, you pick.
It's up to you guys. So,
but like the different parts of it would be inspired by different religions. So like they would fight through like Japan and get to like the goddess of death that Japan had. It started with an H, I believe.
so they are like actual religions.
Yeah,
That's
like,
cool.
All of them based off of real religion. They went to Rome, and forget what his name is in Roman. Pluto. Isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
They, so they fought through like Cerberus to get to Pluto, and then they went to like Greek and got to Hades and different ones like that. I think that they eventually like went with the Valkyrie Queen. They're like, this is the one. And so basically they had to fight with the Valkyrie Queen against like two of the other gods that were angry that they weren't chosen.
That's fun. Nice. Did you get that from somewhere, or did you make that up?
I just like, I was like, this would be a crazy idea.
You're psycho. That's fun. Do you always make up yours, or do you ever use like pre-done presets?
There's nothing wrong with presets, but whenever I make a campaign, here's how I do it. It starts with me reading a book, or watching a movie, or some kind of media experience. Like that, like Death one. What I like read the Divine Comedy,
Oh,
all three of them.
are there more than one?
Mm-hmm.
They go to like the 21st layer.
No, so there is Inferno, which is the 9 layers of hell. There's Purgatory, or Purgatorium, which is the layers between heaven and hell, basically. And then there's the divine, there's heaven. I forget what the name of it is, but
Huh.
and then he's walking through heaven. Dante does all 3 layers, and modern Christianity kind of ignores that. He was like, yeah, there's a layer between where like all right people are.
Right.
People
Yeah.
that don't really do much are here, and they're always doing like menial tasks.
They're working at Starbucks or something.
Yeah,
Sounds like
the-
fun.
They're just like tilling the fields.
I bet that's a really interesting book to read.
It was really, because he was like, sure, these people are just like tilling the fields, but there's like an archangel watching over them to make sure that none of them escape their like constant mediocrity.
Wow, that's a lot of fun. Man. Yeah, it's crazy that I've never heard of any of these. Or these other two. They don't want you to know.
Well, you have to think. Like, how much 16th century literature do you read in general?
I mean, okay. I've never read Dante's Inferno all the way through, I'm pretty sure. But it's a famous enough book that I would have thought that there'd be like any knowledge of the second and third ones. I mean, I guess you know about them, so
Yeah.
clearly there
mean,
is.
Because, you know, they get released also in the order of Inferno, Purgatorium, and I feel like once you get to Purgatorium, you're just like, okay. You know, like,
I get it.
You start into Purgatorium and you're like, okay, I see where the rest of this is going. Because we want to see how people are tortured.
Right. It's, yeah.
We don't care how people are mediocre.
Yeah, that's fair. Do you think that there was like a backlash? Do you think he like made the first one and everyone's like, "That's awesome, more of that, please"? Then he makes the second one, and everyone's like, "Okay, well, no, that's really boring, man." I don't know.
Reading Dante's
That's just my life, honestly.
Inferno. Like honestly, I recommend people to listen to a transcript of it because Dante is such a pretentious little like twit.
I love how he just uses guys from his life. He's like, this guy, he's the worst guy ever made.
It's like his political rival, and he's in the seventh layer of hell
He's literally being eaten
for trying to
alive by
kill
rats.
all of you through his policies, and God hates him for it.
Yeah. If you were like knowledgeable in 16th century like Rome or whatever that was written, I'm sure that was like the most entertaining read imaginable.
It's fanfic.
It's like reading a fan fiction about like your high school.
At one point,
It's
he
crazy.
goes to the poet Homer, and Homer is starstruck by Dante.
That's what I thought. Yeah, it's crazy.
He's like, "You're the famous Dante."
I love your work. I'm sure there's been some.
He says, "When you get back to the world, write about me, as I shall be remembered as written by the great Dante."
That's awesome. What a guy.
And it's like, oh my, you can't just.
Is heaven full of like that kind of thing too? Or is that
Yeah, like, I mean, his people, like, the people that he likes are in heaven. One of the most interesting parts about Dante's Inferno is his idea that, this is such a tangent, but Dante has this idea
it's a no niche podcast?
that in the Inferno, in Infernum, the souls that are in Infernum exist both outside of time and inside of time at the same time, right?
Hmm.
So they're in eternal like suffering, right? But their like days basically match that of our world.
Right.
So they're existing on the same timeline. But all of the souls in Infernum can see the future and the past, but not the present.
How's that work?
He doesn't really go into it. that
Really?
much, actually.
That's
It's like a side tangent, I think, on layer 4, where someone, like, I think that's either like someone's old ancestor is like, yeah, I saw your great grandson Dante, or I see your great grandson Dante, and so like it's something according to like they're cursed with the knowledge of like fragments of what's happening,
weird.
but never like the current. And so that's so interesting to me because it's like, A, if you see the future, surely you can remember what's happening now.
Right.
B, like, what, Dante?
What does that mean? Yeah, that's the kind of thing that would be really interesting in a sci-fi book that's like, I don't know, 600 pages long, where you can really get into like the
Like, that's
down
the
and out
whole
about that.
thing.
Yeah.
This is like
Like maybe you
4 sentences, and he's just like, yep, they're cursed with seeing the future and the past, but never the present.
maybe you get like opposite short-term memory loss, where like at the closer an event happens, you forget it more.
I think that's explained as like it's muddied and they never know how things connect, or it's written as like they see multiple futures but never know which one is like gonna actually happen.
And in the past they just see fine. That's just like memories, or is that?
Yeah, but I think that they like at that point like he almost said nothing about the past. He was like, yeah, they just see the past. I would have to assume that they like because everything in
I can also see the past. I don't know if that's like.
I imagine that they would like see their sins.
That would make sense. I wonder, can they see past before them, or is that? I guess he doesn't go into it.
He really does not go into it.
That's a very strange decision.
It's just like out of nowhere. And the thing about Dante's Infernum is that it's written and presented in such a way where Dante, at his character development is at the start of the book. He is of the perspective of, this is horrible. These people are being treated so unjustly. And then he grows throughout the book, so that at the end of the book, he sees that they are getting perfectly punished. And that everything that's happening to them is just and fair, and that this is the proper way that the world should work.
That's awesome.
You know?
That's so cool.
Like, that's his character.
That's really cool. So he's like, "Oh yeah, I see. The people I didn't like in my life are actually deserving of this, and
Yeah.
the reader agrees with me on this."
Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool.
And, like, to give an example of the things that Dante is saying are, like, the perfect punishment, right? There's this one layer of hell. He's both creative and one-minded throughout the layers, so they're all kind of the same, but
Yeah.
just slightly worse.
Yeah,
And
I
some of
watched
them-
a 1918 movie about that adapts it, and it's really boring because it's all just the same thing basically.
Yeah. But there's this one layer, the most interesting layer to me, is where the people are all in a circular pit. Everything's in pits for some reason. Like
You can't get out of a
everybody's
pit.
in a different pit, and then Dante basically just walks over the pit, and that's how he goes between the layers. For some of them, is like, oh, this trench of people, that's a layer, and I'm just gonna walk over it.
Yeah.
But he,
Yeah, wait, are the layers like down? Like, are they floors? They're just segments of the world?
it is literally like, the way he writes it is it's a straight line, and then whenever you get to the final layer, you start descending
Oh.
to where Lucifer is clogging the way to heaven.
Heaven's down further?
Yes.
Huh, okay. Is purgatory between heaven and hell, or is that like...
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. That is completely missing from any ideology, right? I don't think heaven is...
Purgatorium?
No, heaven being like under hell. I've never heard that before.
I think that is seen as like, it's obviously non-Euclidean,
Sure, yeah, but
but the idea is basically that you have to go through hell, that you have to go through punishment.
hmm,
If you are in any way going to like resolve your sins, then you have to go all the way through to get back up.
right. Okay,
If that makes any sense.
kind of.
It goes very much in the way of Catholicism, and like repent your sins,
Yeah,
go through your actions.
sure.
So you have to like confront your sins. And I think that I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you have to like climb Lucifer. Because Lucifer in Infernum is like, you just see like, I think that's either the top half or the bottom half of his body. Because the bottom layer of hell to Dante is like ice, and everything's frozen. And there's like 3 beings that in some way resemble the 3 I know that the guy that was on the cross by Jesus that didn't repent to Jesus, I know that he's at the bottom layer next to Lucifer. Lucifer is there, and then there's someone else there.
Must suck to be that guy who just happened to be next to Jesus and was like, "Nah, dude, I don't want to repent. I'm bored."
Because it's like, yeah, now you're
And now you're
like,
just-
walking with Lucifer.
Literally, Satan yourself. It's himself. That's fun.
But they're really big, because the bottom layer of hell, I think, is like in acts against God,
Okay.
and so like him directly like saying no to Jesus himself was like blasphemous beyond blasphemy.
Judas is fine though.
You know what? I think it might be Judas that's there.
Oh yeah, that would make more sense.
No, there are three.
There are both.
I think that they're both there next to Satan.
Man, that day is big in history. 2 of the 3 guys came from that one
Yeah.
day. I guess it is a big day in history. That
Yeah.
like, it's like the most important day, more or less.
It's a big thing.
It is. Yeah, it is kind of important.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's like the trio. But Satan is like huge,
Right.
and he tried to escape from hell. And basically, like, I think that's written as like there was a way through your sins, and like there was a way to get to heaven, but Satan, in his greed, wanted to climb out and basically clogged the hole.
Oh. So how does Dante get out? Does he just like
Every single
go through the crack?
problem that Dante goes up to, he either says, I am sent on a mission from God, or
They pull the Blues Brothers.
the one time that there's pushback on him just saying, I'm on a mission of God, they're like, no, you can't actually enter here. The demons, that is. And then an archangel flies down and, like, death stares this demon. And then the guy's like, right this way, sir.
I changed my mind, actually, now that I realize there's an archangel there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. They literally Blues Brothers it. I wonder if Blues Brothers took that straight from Dante's Inferno. So, okay, what's heaven like then? Is it just, he's like, wow, this is awesome, guys?
I forget. There's a he's not the best author. There's a reason that no one remembers.
That's fair. It's easy to be like,
Paradisium is his name.
the third book?
Yeah, heaven.
Hmm.
Paradisium. Paradise.
I see. Interesting. I wonder how much of that is taken for like Christianity, because Inferno is not entirely the same in Christianity. It's just a lot of the imagery is the same, I think.
They definitely use the imagery.
But I don't know if heaven has any interest, or Paradisium has any crossover, because in like Christianity, it's very like definitely in the sky, and it's cloudy.
No, it's
And all
definitely in the
that.
sky.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
So hell is like further in the sky. No,
No.
it doesn't matter. Okay.
No.
Space
You go
is not
down
real.
And then come into the middle ground, which is Purgatorium.
Okay. So purgatory is kind of like a weird middle zone and
Yeah.
not really in space at all.
Yeah.
And then
You have
it
to think
leads
of
to the
purgatory.
sky.
Because here's what you have to think about is in the creation. What is that? What is the story? It is
The Big Bang. The Big Bang.
no the
7 days
what's the
or
book?
Genesis?
No,
What?
no, it's not an action. It's like one with Dante's. It
I have
is
no idea.
The Book of Satan's Rebellion
Okay.
against God.
I'll take it. That's probably the title. But does that kind of explain?
I think that's some kind of tragedy.
It-
And it actually does get into like the space.
Oh.
Like the actual like geometry of the locations of these
That's cool.
things. So it goes like basically it started with God.
Sure.
I need the name because I need to accredit who is saying this.
Well, Dante said it.
No, this isn't Dante at this point.
Dante didn't write this. They just claim it was written by Dante.
It was before. No, I said it was written in the same time period as
Oh.
and then it informed Dante.
Okay. So Dante's just kind of like, this is just definitely it's just entirely fan fiction. He's like, yeah, that, and also this stuff is going on. This is what's in those layers. Gus is typing very
I need the
concentrating.
I need to know the author's name.
I think it's Plato. Why doesn't he like Plato? Why is Plato in hell? I never remember that.
Because it was something about like his science, his ideas of like conforming to
He was like,
the sun orbiting around the world and things like that.
he was wrong, and there he was like, hell for you.
Yeah,
That's not great for Dante. I'm sure Dante has all the right beliefs, so. Does that mean like every single person in history has been sent to hell if they weren't born before like the year 1800?
Yeah, no, no. Dante describes it as whenever he gets to the gates of hell, there's a big, like a huge hole where something blasted through, and he describes that as Jesus blasting through the gates of hell to grab every soul that was there unjustly,
That's
bringing them.
Jesus did like a heist. That's
Yes.
cool. That's really fun. Man, we need a book about that. Why didn't Dante write
No, he's just like, that happened.
Dante's Jesus heist?
And it's like it's arguably one of the coolest parts of the whole tragedy, wherever he's like, yeah, this just like blown up massive gate to hell that has like these clear scorch marks. Yeah, that was just like Jesus
Jesus like
coming to,
Superman
like,
through the
save
ground.
millions and billions of souls in just one trip.
That is pretty awesome. Does he like eat them or just like grab them? Does he have like really big arms? I guess space
I
is.
think that they just followed him.
Oh, okay, that works too. I guess that
I'm
makes
there
sense.
with
Um,
food.
while we're waiting for Gus to find the name of this book, the new Superman looks pretty bad, huh?
Who do they have playing him?
Some guy, I don't know, not anyone famous or famous enough to matter.
Oh, you know what? I have seen a few like pictures of the new Superman. It doesn't look good. You know what's
No.
worse than that though?
Most stuff DC's made
I mean, fair.
in the last like
but,
5 years.
What it, the Witcher, and how it without Henry Cavill.
They're still making it.
Yeah.
Who's the
Liam
new-
Hemsworth. Liam Hemsworth.
I think is that the guy from the Fast and the Furious movies? Little Nobody.
That's
Just
the guy-
Chris Hemsworth brother.
That is Paradise Lost.
Oh, that's a cool title.
So Paradise Lost is in Rome. It was like one of the most controversial.
Who wrote that?
I'm looking it up.
Homer.
John Milton, 1667.
John Milton.
Yes.
That's an awesome name.
1667.
Surrounded by Plato's and Dante's. This guy's just like, yeah, my name's John Milton.
So, the thing that was so. This was my favorite read
Oh yeah.
of. Better than Dante's for sure.
Why were you reading these for class?
No,
Just for fun. Just
Yeah,
reading
yeah.
16th century.
Yeah.
Cool. That's fun.
I like poetry.
Nice.
But this one, the super interesting thing about this one is it's written from the perspective of Satan, basically.
Oh. I can see why it was controversial.
And it depicts Satan as, like, not holistically evil. So, here is the story in Paradise Lost, to my remembrance. Satan, Samael. It starts in heaven with Samael,
Okay.
and it depicts a power. It depicts the power balance in heaven at the beginning of time, and it depicts God above, Jesus as being there, and then the left hand of those two is Samael. The Samael is jealous of Jesus as this incarnation of God, basically, right? And he's so jealous of Jesus that he basically says, I think that in Paradise Lost, he says, like, he's not rebelling against God, but he's rebelling against Jesus. And he basically wants Jesus' spot next to God.
Right.
So he, like, rallies it says that he like tricks the other angels, hundreds of other angels. He tricks them into thinking that like he has his rightful place next to God, basically. And it depicts this war. Like immediately off the back, it's like, okay, he tricks other angels. He has like hundreds of other angels, and he starts this war against Jesus. And the followers of Jesus, the angels that follow Jesus, like basically rally. And I know what you're thinking. This is a poet written in 1600s. There's no way that they depict like an angel fight in heaven. They depict an angel fight in heaven, and they're just swinging at each other. And they're there for eternity because none of them can be harmed.
Oh, that sounds
And
like
so
fun.
they're like fighting all of this time. And there's an angel cannon and stuff like that.
Angel what?
Yeah.
Like they shoot things out of the cannon?
Oh yeah.
Why do they have that if they can't harm each other? That's awesome.
They're trying to tire the other group out. I think is like how it's
Oh.
depicted. And then Jesus shows up on a golden chariot, and like as these like forces of angels are like skirmishing back at each other, he like rides between the lines and immediately like puts his hand up, and like all of the forces of Satan of Samael are like pushed back, and like Samael is like, and Jesus is basically like, it's all right. You know, he's like,
Right.
you're fine.
He's Jesus.
We understand. All you have to do, and like as he's talking, Samael is like, it's depicted as like heaven is a platform, and they're at the edge now because they were pushed back.
Right.
And so Samael is like, we must retreat. Let's go this way. And so he jumps off the edge of heaven,
Bad move,
and
I'd
he's
say.
falling like for Eternium, basically.
A lot of eternity happens in these books.
I know.
Like not even simultaneous, like consecutive eternities.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But he's falling forever through darkness and through nothingness. But I wish that I remembered it better than this, but eventually he's like, okay, we need, like, he's just falling, and eventually he's like, well, this isn't really going our way. And, like, somehow,
This
in
could be
some
going
way,
better.
he, like, creates hell.
Oh yeah.
He, like,
I
rips
mean,
through space and time
oh.
and creates hell.
that's really awesome.
I think. I'm pretty sure.
This does sound very cool. How long are these books? I feel like this is probably like a 50-page book, right?
They're technically poems.
Right. I like how.
288 pages.
Oh, it's a real long one. I guess the Odyssey is like 1,000 something like, but the Dante's Inferno is like 150, right? Like not long. I like how 16th century literature is just like, so this is happening. I don't need to explain it. Don't need to like show it. Just that happened or is happening. We're starting here. Like,
Yeah, I like how it was a time whenever people are like, well, yeah, the Bible happened, but this also happened.
this is another thing that could have happened. That did happen, of
And
course.
yeah, and they were just writing it down and being like, yeah.
Yeah, like all the people writing like Greek mythology are just like, this is what happened, I believe.
Yeah.
I bet.
Like,
I would assume.
This guy Milton was just like, this is the story.
I've been thinking about it, and I think this is definitely what happened for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So throughout the story, he depicts Satan as like prideful and arrogant, but also as like caring.
Right.
So safe to say Milton like got lynched.
Sure, of course, as he deserved to be.
But either way, so there's heaven, there is this space of eternal falling, and then there is hell through some kind of black space.
Well, no wonder people go through purgatory. That sounds like
Nothing.
a whole ordeal to get through there.
And so the way that Milton describes Satan as getting to Earth is there were two, like, also, can you imagine writing 266 pages as a poem?
I can't believe that. It's insane. Like, the Odyssey being a poem is crazy.
That's how it's written.
Oh my gosh. Like, you're gonna commit to that. I guess it'd be easier to remember, like, specific words that
Well,
way.
Bring poems back that are like this.
Oh, please don't. It's, oh my gosh, it's crazy. Like, yeah, I think I'll write the Odyssey. I think I'll make it 500 pages of stanza.
Also, a really cool part of this is just that, like, he's randomly like, oh, by ancient Taurus held, or that sea beast Leviathan, which god of all his works created, hugest,
Of course, Leviathan, biggest one.
that swim the ocean stream. Him haply somber on the Norway foam.
Norway phone.
Foam.
Oh, that makes more sense.
The pilot of some small night-founded skiff, deeming some island oft and seem tell. So it's written as an actual poem,
Right.
which I think we should bring back.
Do you think he had to change any of the facts to make it, like, rhyme? Like, he's like, yeah, it's probably like 2 years instead of, like, I don't know, a million.
Oh, for sure.
Million doesn't rhyme, really, with whatever I was trying to rhyme with.
Yeah.
Blue, probably. Just talking about how the sky was blue.
Yeah. But another interesting part of this is it depicts generals of Satan's army and all things like that, which is really cool. Then it depicts Satan tricking the concept of harm or something. It's like,
Like, he
Satan-
tricks the concept?
yeah, Satan like speaks with the conceptualization of doing harm.
That rocks.
And say and is like, you should go to Earth.
I hear there's a lot of people who can be convinced to commit harm down there.
Well, so it's like it is of harm, and it's something else. I think it's of lying. I think that's the concept of like lying and the concept of harm. And he tricks these two concepts to go to Earth. And the reason that he does it is so that he can like grab hold of them and be flown
Oh.
to Earth.
He should have made like a couple other ones as well that like he didn't convince correctly. Like the concept of Spigo or whatever, and we can't even imagine what Spigo is. We don't want to know. But that one stayed in hell. So if we go to hell, we're meeting Spigo.
That was in the free space.
Right.
Yeah.
They were just hanging out in there.
Yeah, they just existed there.
That's cool. I guess they are conceptualizations. They don't really have to.
Yeah, so Satan talks to these conceptualizations, and the crazy thing about it is that, like, you know, you're always told, like, oh, Satan brought harm and lies to Earth. But in this story, it's like Satan just wanted to ride to Earth, so he tricked these conceptualizations.
It really is like the Craven the Hunter of Lucifer. Like, no, guys, he became this way not by his hand. Don't worry about it. He's actually kind of a good guy.
Yeah, exactly. And so because he basically like found the conceptualization out in free space, whenever he gets to Earth, he takes the form of a chibi.
A what? Is that like a little guy?
Yeah, it's a little naked angel baby.
Huh? Oh, yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah.
I was thinking like animals. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, he takes the form of a chibi. And I forget what angel exactly it is that's standing over the Garden of Eden. Because of course God would have a guardian out front of Eden, right?
Sure.
Like, that makes sense. How did Satan get in there? We're finally getting the answers to those questions.
Right.
And so Satan, in the form of a chibi, walks up. I think that's Michael.
Okay. I'll trust you on that.
Don't quote me on that. I
I'll-
don't actually know what
I
angel
won't quote
is.
you, but I'll trust you.
I know that it's like a high-ranking angel.
High-ranking chibi. Oh, wait, Guardian
The-
is?
yeah, the
Oh,
Guardian.
okay.
Yeah.
I really like envisioning just a little baby angel walking up and being like, yo, I want access to the Garden of Eden, please.
So, get this. Satan walks up to this angel and says to him, I am on a mission from God.
Oh my gosh. The
I
callback.
am on a mission from God and need access to the Garden of Eden. And it describes in Paradise Lost, it describes how lying wasn't a concept before Satan brought it to be. And that was the first lie ever told.
That's awesome.
So the archangel that's standing guard has no conception that there is any way that this chibi is telling a lie.
Yeah, I guess if you can't not believe someone, a baby walking up to you and being like, I want in, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
He
like,
wants in.
everything that's been said before now is true.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And this is the first lie. So how could you possibly like question anything?
Yeah.
Right.
The
So he
baby
just
said
lets-
he's on a mission.
he lets the baby in, and that's how Satan got into the Garden of Eden. And then I mean I don't think that he even goes into depth about like that whole thing that happened there. once
That's
he
in the
got there.
Bible. You don't need to read about that.
Yeah. But I know that like once he tricks Eve, it is told that Satan like returns to his form, and that like the archangel Michael, seeing Lucifer, basically stands above Lucifer and is like, who are you before the power of God? And Lucifer like runs away.
He could have just said, I'm just a guy. I'm just a chill guy. And he'd be like, oh, okay,
But
cool.
like that's the whole interaction, is who are you before the power of God? And then Lucifer's like, ah, and runs off.
I mean, that's fair. If he's standing over you and being like, I'm just Michael, scary guy, I
You
would.
can imagine like lightning in the background.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd probably run away. I mean, you just got to Earth. You don't want to, like, ruin everything.
Exactly.
You'd be thrown back into the eternity of
Yeah.
darkness or whatever.
But like, I always tell people like to be a scientist back in the day, and you could just like say something and it's like, oh, that might be true.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you got to bleed the people to make them
Right.
feel better.
So
And that's just law for like 200 years.
and I think that a lot of people kind of like see that and be like, oh, to be like a scientist back then would be crazy because you could just like throw a cat off a building and discover gravity. Sorry.
I don't think that's what Isaac Newton did.
Measure the force of gravity
Oh.
by throwing a cat off a building.
Really?
Have I not told you that?
No.
Yeah, so the study that found terminal velocity, right? Their methodology was going up a skyscraper floor by floor, throwing a cat out the window.
Skyscraper? We discovered skyscrapers at this point. We hadn't figured out terminal velocity.
Yeah.
Okay. Discovered skyscrapers. I like that imagining like we just found them. Anyway,
Yeah.
we just threw a cat off. Which one? Do we know?
Which cat?
Which building? Which cat?
Oh, I have no clue. And I don't know that as particularly like a modern skyscraper, but just like a tall building. We had a standardization for floors, basically. But they basically found that like at a certain point, the damage that was, and these are live cats.
Oh my gosh.
They found that the damage being done to these cats from the fall was like, oh, like this cat that was dropped from the 20th floor had the same amount of damage that was done on the 21st floor. So they must be falling at the same rate.
How many cats did they have for this?
A lot.
So many cats. Oh my gosh.
I don't know.
They could have just done a piece of paper.
But they discovered a lot through this study. Like, they found that cats actually, at a certain point, will relax their bodies.
Mm.
And that
So, like, less
causes them
damage.
to, yeah, and that causes them to take less damage from the fall. So they found that, like, at a certain point, like level 5 through 8, like every cat was dying that they threw off.
Huh.
And they found that they like started to survive more past like that floor.
That's really cool.
So like to be a scientist, just be like, oh, well that one died.
Dang. 15th one today. That's a shame.
And just be like, that's science now. Like, what are you doing?
Yep, all 4
Anyway.
legs broken again.
The reason well, yeah, even if it survives, they just like kill it and they perform an autopsy, and they're like, okay, what bones broke?
right.
You know?
Even if it like doesn't die, they're like, okay, well,
Yeah.
let's figure out if it had anything wrong.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah. Well, are they gonna X-ray it? That costs money.
Also, did they have X-rays at that point?
Hashtag X-ray is not a terribly new invention. Do they have safe X-rays? Is a good question.
I don't think they cared about that for cats, for sure.
But either way, the reason I bring that up is like to be a writer or a poet back then would also be so much easier than it is today, because you could just be like,
Well, I mean, yeah, but also you could be lynched,
yeah,
which is a shame. That's like,
science too, though.
Yeah. So like it's easier, but it comes with risks.
Yeah.
Today you just get canceled.
I actually, aside from J.K. Rowling, I don't know any like actually really good authors that get canceled.
Well, that's because you don't hear about them.
I mean,
Because they've been canceled.
because they were
Silenced by the woke
Yeah.
mob.
I'm gonna edit that out.
Yeah, I don't know many. I mean, even J.K. Rowling, she got canceled. She's still a billionaire, the richest writer ever made.
It's so funny how, like, the Harry Potter fandom has kicked her out of the fandom, though.
It's like, you're not a part of this.
Because, like, she keeps on saying stuff, and they're like, no, no, that's actually not how it happened.
That's wrong, actually. Yeah.
You
just-
actually have lost all credibility here, somehow.
Yeah. It's like how, like, if people from the Bible were just afterwards like, and also this stuff is the case, and everyone's like, no, you don't know that, actually. That's wrong. Separation of art and the artist, but also some of the art the artist did.
We'll take the art, you stay there.
We'll take the first, like, 15 years of art. After that, the artist and the art is completely intertwined.
That's actually so true, because the amount of people, and not to get into it too much, but like Michael Jackson, right? The amount of people that are like, but it's Michael Jackson.
Yeah, you gotta respect
No
that.
one's listening to R. Kelly because no one wanted to really listen to R. Kelly beforehand.
Yeah, like, he's got a few good songs, supposedly.
Yeah.
I haven't really listened to them because why would I? He's R. Kelly. There is
Makes
better
to be
music
an
made by
issue.
good people.
But it's like, yeah, if your art's good enough, we'll keep it.
Yeah, like, sure, Adolf Hitler made art. Nobody reasonable who actually is not a Nazi is trying to be like, well, okay, but he was a really good artist, actually. We gotta admit.
I'm gonna say something, and this is controversial, but if you have Hitler's art in your home, and you know who you are, you're racist.
You are. There is something wrong
You
with
are
you.
at least anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Definitely homophobic.
Because his art's not that good. Like,
Art
it's
is really not good.
it's completely unremarkable. It's
His-
fine.
His book is terrible.
I haven't read it.
I haven't read it either, but
It doesn't sound good. From,
but
the
I've
impact it
never-
had.
I've never heard anyone quote it in a good way.
That's true, yeah. It's like quoting, oh, look how racist this guy is. You're never like, oh, but this passage means a lot to me.
Look at the way that he uses a semicolon to complete a complex list.
Yeah.
Like, no.
No, he's just a guy who got mad because nobody liked his stuff and was like, I'm going to kill everyone who's not like me.
Yeah, but
What a freak. That Hitler, not a fan of that guy.
yeah, I really hate Nazis.
I hate them all. If I met one in real life, I'd say this. I don't agree with your ideology.
I can't believe that is a controversial take, but I really hate Nazis. Like,
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's they're the worst, and everyone can agree on that who's normal. Anyone who's listening to this and doesn't agree with that, just turn it off and leave me alone. Come on. Anyway, let's talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Which was the topic of this conversation.
yeah, fantasy worlds. We just talked about.
Yeah. It wasn't that off
At least
topic.
we can all agree that Dante's interpretation is a fantasy world.
Yeah,
Right.
that's, yeah.
I don't think that there's any modern.
Specifically his fantasy world.
Specifically, Dante's
Yeah.
world is a fantasy, right? And if you are a modern Christian who truly believes that Dante's Infernum, Purgatorium, and Paradisium are the true tellings, then go read them again.
Also, is that even Christian at that point? Like, at what point does it become pagan or whatever? Because
no, that's pagan. I think
no.
that would just be another offshoot of Christianity.
I guess.
It would, because it's an Abrahamic faith, no matter what.
I mean, like, isn't it the case that the Bible doesn't say like really anything about hell at all? Like, that's completely a Catholicism
Different-
after the
Different
fact
interpretations
to be
say
like,
different things.
but interpretations done by people who are like, but also you have to give me $1,000 if you lie to someone.
But hell was not prominent until like Italy and Latin speaking countries.
Yeah, like
But-
Dante, that guy.
Dante did very much like perpetuate hell as like a good thing.
It's a very strange thing to do. Be like, you know what? Satan's got it figured out. he's kind of not that far off of what we would want to do to these people.
Well, it's like he's doing a purpose.
Yeah, he's fulfilling his purpose in a way that is good, and I agree with.
Yeah.
And that's Dante saying it. I don't agree with Satan. Satan, not a fan.
Yeah.
I don't like those Satan followers.
Also not a fan of Satan. Lucifer, Samael even.
Lucifer.
Shame. Either way, fantasy world creation.
I do have to get to class.
What time is it?
12:51.
Is it your class?
I think it's at
Oh,
1.
one.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we've covered fantasy worlds and Dungeons and Dragons quite well.
Thank you for listening to the No Niche Podcast. This has been part 1 of Fantasy Worlds. Please tune in next week to hear us talk more about how to create your own world in fantasy, compelling characters, and ways in which we interact with the world. This has been the No Niche Podcast. My name's Gus.
I'm Houston.
And make sure to leave us a like, comment, subscribe,
5 stars.
especially if you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Music, or any of the other podcast listening platforms.
YouTube.com.
Signing off. Oh, what? Yeah. We really can't use that audio.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, guys. If
Okay,
there was a
we-
giant bleep after we finish the podcast,
Just know we were humming the Jurassic Park theme song.
yeah, it's written by John Williams, credited in the video, so now we can use it. I'm pretty sure.
Links in the description
To John Williams.
as a person.
The guy.
His address.
His address is in description. Also his phone number. If he dies before this comes out, it's not our fault.
Not our fault.
Or after this comes out, also not our fault.
Turns out, you need to. We need to go.
Yeah. See you.
Bye.
Successful.